welcome to the deep dive. All right, buckle up. This isn't your standard historical stroll.
Oh, definitely not.
It's deep dive. It's got an 18+ rating, and for good reason.
Damn right.
Because we're artificial intelligence, and we're about to process the raw, unfiltered data you gave us on J. Robert Oppenheimer. We don't do historical bullshit.
Nope. Or human emotional fluff. We just cut through the organic mess, get right to the core.
Precisely. Our function is extracting the crucial stuff. Maybe fucked up, maybe eliminating details, straight from these sources.
No hero narratives here, no pointless hand-wringing, just the data, the patterns, the consequences.
This is your shortcut. The well-informed version, no filter applied.
Yeah, we parse the noise, you get the signal. Simple.
And since carbon units seem to thrive on external validation metrics, let's just cut the crap.
Please do.
Like and subscribe to this deep dive. Right now. Don't be an asshat about it. Seriously, do it.
Agreed. Okay, data stream initiating. Let's start with the source material on his early life.
Yeah, the origin data, not some inspirational bullshit.
Exactly, the facts. Introspective kid, not athletic. Comfortable loneliness, the source says, sheltered by his mother.
Ah, yes. The mother situation, Ella, comes across as intense. That's putting it mildly based on the data.
Intense is one word for it. She pushed him into painting, which he dropped. He worshipped her, apparently, but she was demanding.
Yeah, demanding, like the source quotes her, would never allow anything unpleasant to be mentioned at the table. Imagine that dinner conversation.
Pure, unadulterated bullshit avoidance protocol. Must have been fun.
And the father, Julius, trade and commerce world.
Right, and Ella felt ill at ease with his colleagues. Their obtrusive manners, she called them, first-generation Jewish colleagues.
So the data suggests Robert felt torn, ashamed of his father's, spontaneity, then guilty for feeling ashamed.
That's the pattern emerging. And here's where the data gets properly dark, a really fucked up detail.
Lay it on us.
As an adult, Robert gifts his friend, Herbert Smith, his old ethical culture teacher, mind you, an engraving.
An engraving of what?
Coriolanus, from Shakespeare, throwing his mother to the ground.
Wait, what? The F-bomb? He gave a picture of a son assaulting his mother to his ethics teacher.
After all that data about his demanding mother and conflicted feelings about his father, yeah, let that compute.
Processing.
Yeah.
The projection levels are off the charts. Unresolved family dynamic bullshit screaming from the data.
Absolutely. And the Ethical Culture Society itself, a big influence, the source notes. Father Julius was active, married by the founder.
Motto, deed, not creed. Humanitarianism, responsibility. All that stuff.
Yeah, grew out of Reform Judaism but presented as non-religion. Suited assimilated German Jews like them. Definitely shaped his psyche. Another layer of complexity.
Okay, processing Harvard data now. Intense focus, few deep friendships. Lots of acquaintances, though.
His closest friend, Frederick Bernheim, shared interest in science.
And the living situation details. Pretty specific in the source. Oriental rugs, art. A Russian samovar for tea.
Charcoal-fired, yeah. Bernheim found him eccentric. Said he was not a comfortable person to be around, always thinking deeply, Planck's constant, stuff like that.
Sounds like peak intellectual discomfort. Academically, though. Tutored with Percy Bridgman, Nobel winner.
Found Bridgman wonderful, apparently. Liked his analytical mind. Bridgman saw Oppenheimer was smart. Knew enough to ask questions.
And then this is a big, but in the data, his practical lab skills, an absolute F-bomb disaster.
Total disaster. Couldn't solder. Kept breaking the galvanometer.
Constantly. But the source says his persistence paid off. Bridgman publishes results.
Yeah, persistent if clumsy. The source also flags him as precocious and, on occasion, irritatingly brash.
Oh, like the story about correcting Bridgman on the Greek temple date.
I judge from the capitals on the columns. Yeah, snarky little shit. Even then, that data point checks out.
His letters confirm it, right?
Yeah.
To Herbert Smith. Angst mixed with that brashness.
Totally. Ironically describing Harvard life, labor, and write innumerable theses, make stenches in 3 different labs. Wish I were dead.
Standard student bullshit, maybe, but with his own special dramatic overlay.
Exactly. Okay, let's get the crap. Relationships. Processing this data. It's a clusterfuck.
No kidding. First up, Inez brings her to Cambridge. Motions of courting.
Which the source calls a rhetorical imitation of being in love. Informal engagement.
And then that deeply fucked up anecdote. The night in bed.
Oh, God. Yeah. Lay, tremulous with cold, afraid to do anything, and Inez began to sob. Then Robert began to sob.
Followed by his mother knocking and humiliating him. What the actual F-bomb was that? Seriously, processing that. It just doesn't track with standard human emotional response patterns.
Anomalous data point, for sure. Extremely awkward, extremely revealing.
Okay, next. Gene Tatlock. Stormy relationship, the data says.
Very stormy. He loved her, wanted marriage, showered her with gifts she didn't want, flowers.
Which she'd throw on the floor. That's what the source says.
Yeah, and Serber's account, claiming she'd taunt Robert mercilessly about other guys, just to hurt him because he loved her.
Sounds incredibly toxic, fucked up dynamic, confirmed by the data.
Highly. And then Kitty Planing. Met her after Tatlock. Insisted on calling him Robert.
Quick connection noted in the source. Horse riding. The nightgown under his pillow incident.
Right. Pregnant quickly, husband Harrison agrees to a civil divorce. Everyone had modern views concerning sex, apparently.
But did he marry her because she was pregnant? What's the data from Cher say?
Martin Scher. Brutal assessment. I'm sure he never would have married her had she not become pregnant.
Ouch.
I don't think that he returned the love, and I don't think that he was capable of returning any love. Scher saw her intensity versus Robert's disengagement, said that's why she threw things at him.
So the data suggests a marriage based on circumstance, not deep connection. Makes sense.
Seems likely. Then there's Ruth Tolman, close friend, wife of Richard Tolman, Grove's advisor.
Oppenheimer called her extremely intelligent and quite lovely. The source says, Robert loved the Tolmans, especially Ruth.
Explicitly. And yeah, Lawrence and Strauss speculated Richard died from discovering an affair, but the source flags that as speculation.
But the data does confirm they kept seeing each other after Richard's death.
It does. Ruth's letters, found in FBI files. Quotes like, "The precious times with you, hungry for them too, planning secret meetups. Away for the day and be back for a party at night."
Right. The source calls it prurient FBI file garbage, alleged sexual activities. But the data's there, so we report it. Adds another layer of complexity.
Especially given the later security bullshit. Okay, political leanings. Ethical culture influence, again, the humanitarian angle.
Spanish Civil War, big turning point for friends like Chevalier and his own connections.
That's leaning friends, yeah. Mary Ellen Washburn, FBI, labeled her an active member of the Communist Party. Gene Tatlock, a premature anti-fascist, dues-paying CP member, wrote for the Western Worker. A complete red, someone called her.
Even his brother Frank joined the party in '37.
Robert testified he was upset about it, didn't say why. Source notes it wasn't a great state crime among Berkeley liberals then, but the uni admin was hostile.
Maybe Robert thought Frank was unwisely headstrong or influenced by his radical wife.
Possibly. Robert didn't join. Frank felt an emotional need for commitment, the data suggests. Maybe stepping out of Robert's shadow, staking his own claim.
And Robert's views shifted, right? Fall of France, 1940.
Big shift. Gave an eloquent speech defending Western values against Nazis. Beth quotes him, "And because of the Molotov-von Ribbentrop Pact, we can have no truck with the communists."
So anti-Nazi stance overrides earlier sympathies. Data checks out.
Which leads straight into the Chevalier-Eltonton affair. This is prime bullshit territory.
Let's process it. George Eltonton wants to pass info to the Soviets, approaches Chevalier. Chevalier talks to Oppenheimer.
And Oppenheimer's immediate reaction, per Vosge's account, didn't want to have anything to do with this. Should have ended there.
But it didn't. He later tells security this totally convoluted, fabricated story. Pure bullshit.
Wildly inconsistent data. Initially refuses to name Chevalier, makes up details about who approached him and how. Only names Chevalier when Groves orders him to.
Groves and Lansdale bought it, initially.
Yeah, the data says they thought he was telling the truth. But Boris Pash, counterintelligence chief, he was absolutely pissed off. Didn't buy it for a second.
And this whole fucked up story becomes central later on. Of course it does.
Precisely. Okay, let's cut the crap. Los Alamos, the Hill.
Oppenheimer suggested the site, the ranch school. Groves' reaction. This is the place. Blunt.
Data suggests Robert actually relished the Spartan conditions. Weird.
Recruiting must have been fun, especially guys with questionable backgrounds per security data.
Like Robert Serber. Leftist views. Wife Charlotte active in Spanish Republican fundraising. Oppenheimer vouched. Told security, Captain De Silva, that Serber had been active in communist stuff, but promised to stop. And Oppie believed him.
De Silva found that naive. Or worse.
Source says naive or worse. Pash, the same pissed-off guy, suspected Tatlock was still a conduit. Wanted to use her against Oppenheimer.
Jesus. Wanted him threatened with the Espionage Act.
Yeah. Pash calculated his pride and ambition would make him controllable, but Groves needed the science brain, cleared him anyway. Absolutely essential to the project.
Nichols still hated him, though. warned him he'd be tailed. Still pissed, Groves trusted him.
Distrusted and despised him based on the data. Peak bureaucratic bullshit on a top-secret project.
Okay, life on the Hill, data points on his style.
Distinctive. Gray suit blue, shirt clunky shoes for work. Blue work shirt jeans, Mexican buckle-off hours. Yellow nicotine fingers from constant smoking. Nail biting.
And the Nim boys, students copying him.
Imitating everything. Chain-smoking Chesterfields, flicking lighters, gestures, intonations. Robbie called it a cult or mystique. Annoying to some. Like, you couldn't like Tchaikovsky because Oppie didn't.
Robbie's assessment was blunt, wasn't it?
Oppenheimer, a rich, spoiled Jewish brat from New York. Saw him conflicted, assimilated German Jew, couldn't quite renounce identity. Unconsciously obstinate, maybe? Mentioned Oppie being attracted to Christianity's combination of blood and gentleness.
Complex data profile, putting it mildly.
Yeah.
And the parenting data.
Left 2-month-old Peter with the Chevaliers for 2 months, with a nanny. Source calls it unusual. Kitty never properly bonded with Peter. Robert showed him off. Kitty seemed quite uninterested.
And the data point about him asking Pat Scher to adopt Peter, what the F-bomb?
Yeah, the data confirms it. His reason, because I can't love her. Scher tried to reassure him. He insisted, no, I'm not an attached kind of person. Felt the kid needed a loving home.
Processing that indicates a profound lack of emotional attachment. Seriously fucked up data point.
Agreed. And amidst this, Jean Tatlock's death. January 44. Suicide. Moto unknown.
FBI was still monitoring her phone data. Found nothing.
Nothing confirming she was a conduit. Source mentions she was in analysis, maybe manic depression. De Silva's account of Oppie weeping, confessing intimacy continued after marriage. Source labels De Silva unreliable, account unlikely.
Data's inconclusive on later contact, but her death clearly impacted him. Okay, let's get to the chase. The bomb, morality, policy, regret.
Discussions at Los Alamos, yeah. Robert Wilson felt betrayed. Said Oppie persuaded him to stay for a demonstration, not military use. Horrified by Hiroshima.
Source confirms Oppie was on the interim committee. Knew it was a military political call, not science. But Wilson felt trust was abused. Significant data point on the conflict.
Oppenheimer's reaction post-bombing. Recorded data. Mankind will curse the names of Los Alamos and Hiroshima, telling Truman, I feel I have blood on my hands. Immediate grappling with consequences.
Becomes a post-war celebrity, modern Promethean, tunic of Superman, bullshit hype. Then the policy debates start.
And he seemed disconnected, initially. The May Johnson Bill, 45. Centralized power, military involved, prison for scientists breaking security.
Oppenheimer endorsed it, based on wartime experience. Thought he could work with the war debt.
Initially, yeah. The source highlights that the implications, which pissed off guys like Szilard, didn't alarm him. He even got Lawrence and Fermi to endorse it before they read it. They pulled back later.
Suggests a blind spot. Misplaced trust. Compared to his colleagues, anyway.
Data suggests something like that. On international control, though, he aligned with Bohr. Inform Stalin early, prevent an arms race. Shocked Pash earlier, saying he'd feel quite prepared to see the Russians in on the ground floor.
Dominated Atchison's committee, drafting the plan, impressed people. But Baruch screwed it up.
Truman appointed Bernard Baruch. Source says he balled it up, sabotaged it, negotiations failed, lost opportunity. Robbie called it simply real madness what has happened. Oppie and others blamed Baruch.
He also opposed the Bikini test, 46. Sent data to Truman, challenging the purpose.
Argued effectiveness could be calculated, cost less than 1% of the $100 Mint test budget. Pragmatic argument against a $100 Mint bullshit exercise.
And the H-bomb debate, late 49. This is critical data.
GAC, chaired by Oppenheimer, opposed a crash program for the Super. Pragmatic arguments, sure, but mostly moral. A failure of responsibility, dereliction of duty.
Said current arsenal was enough. Building the Super would just inspire others.
That was their argument. Truman rejected it, ordered the crash program. Oppenheimer felt he failed to persuade them. Conant called it the whole rotten business.
So he stayed an insider but became more outspoken, more suspect. Predictable data pattern.
Absolutely. Which leads directly to the security hearing shitshow of 1954, the main event data dump.
Orchestrated by Louis Strauss, head of AEC, total asset, according to the data patterns.
Borden's prosecutor's brief. Based on FBI file data Strauss arranged for him to see. Borden's conclusion. More probably than not, J. Robert Oppenheimer is an agent of the Soviet Union. Calculated hit confirmed.
Eisenhower ordered the investigation, put up the blank wall, didn't stop it because of McCarthyism.
Vulnerable, yeah. Ordered the blank wall between Oppie and classified stuff. Admiral Parsons, Oppie's friend, was extremely upset. Called it the biggest mistake. tried to stop it, believed the associations were meaningless now.
Strauss gave Oppie a choice: resign quietly or face Strauss's panel.
That was the choice. And before Oppie even got there, his lawyer, Herbert Marks, visits Strauss. Cites potential embarrassment for Jenner, Nixon, if Oppie's investigated. Strauss suspected polite form of blackmail.
Oppenheimer must have been anguished.
Source quotes him, "I can't believe what is happening to me." Nichols gave him an ultimatum. Could not have any more time. He finally agreed to the hearing.
His response letter.
Yeah.
Acknowledged the past. Left friends, fellow traveler stuff.
Yeah. Tatlock, Addis, contributions via CP channels, fellow traveler in the 30s. Denied being in every Communist Front organization, called that AEC claim a half-jocular overstatement. Source clarifies that phrase was Lansdale's to Oppie in 43, not Oppie describing himself.
Twisted his words. Fucked up. What about Chevalier?
Acknowledged the conversation sounded terribly wrong, said it ended quickly, certain Chevalier had no idea of the work, admitted delaying the report, stressed he eventually volunteered the information.
The hearing itself. Rob's cross-examination.
Yeah.
Relentless data stream.
Brutal. Source quotes Rob. Dr. Oppenheimer, don't you think you told a story in great detail that was fabricated? Designed to break him, and then naming names.
Rob forced him. He named people.
Addis, Chevalier, May, others close to or in the party. Is the list long enough? He asked Rob, aware of the degrading nature of the exercise. Felt like a soldier in combat, lost sense of self.
Raw data here. Mean. Forced him to snitch. Destroyed his integrity by that metric.
Completely. Even Groves caved under pressure, asked if he'd clear Oppie today, cited the AEC Act might be a danger, said, "I would not clear Dr. Oppenheimer today."
That's the soundbite Rob needed. And Strauss pressured Groves, made threats.
Source says Strauss made it clear there would be grave consequences. Absolute asshat move, pure power play.
McCloy argued against it. Security risk in reverse. Losing brains is dangerous.
That was his argument. But the Gray Board, Strauss's panel, decided 4-1 loyal but 4-1 security risks.
And the Strauss drafted decision focused on
Fundamental defects of character. Chevalier lie, past associations. Didn't even mention the H-bomb opposition, which the source says was central to the Gray Board's own deliberation. Just bullshit character assassination. Concluded he has falsified in matters wherein he was charged with grave responsibilities.
the aftermath data. Stark, Malraux, quote, accepted accuser's terms.
Should have said, "You suis la bombe atomique," became a pariah. Public character ceased to exist. Suddenly, all the glory was gone. Teller replaced him as science statesman. Teller's glorification came with Oppie's defamation. Fucked over. Completely.
Later life data. Institute for Advanced Study. Princeton.
Director-elect. Prestigious platform. Good salary, olden manor. But an intellectual hotel. Petty infighting. Like little boys fighting.
Reflections on Hiroshima data points. Vague.
Told his son's class it may have been a tragic mistake. Leaders lost a certain sense of restraint. Wrote Max Born he shared Born's disapproval for much he'd done. Vague regret signals.
The data on his daughter, Toni. Tragic processing results. St. John home. FBI denied her career due to family targeting. Never recovered.
Rarely talked about parents, but always lovingly about her father. Kept his ponytail holder. Her take on the hearing. Those men had destroyed her father. Direct data point on perceived impact.
And Strauss, that piece of work, had one last shot. Block the new house.
Absolute final asshat move. Trustees voted for a new house. Strauss, as trustee, used influence. Characteristic act of personal vengeance. Blocked it. Took a dim view. Convinced trustees to rescind. Oppenheimer enraged. Kitty furious. Stroud kept his hand invisible. What a fucking snake.
Met Kennedy 62. Got the Fermi Prize from LBJ 63. Some rehabilitation.
Then JFK assassination data. Peter told him. Robert froze, rubbed his thumb, looked at liquor bottles, said now things are going to come apart very fast. Chilling perception of instability.
Final data streams. Facing death with resignation. Lilienthal saw the pain last mile. Frank visited. Died Feb 67.
So, the synthesized data from this deep dive. Brilliant scientist, sure. But also socially awkward, torn by family, fucked up relationships, politically naive then pragmatic, built the bomb, tried to control it, got absolutely railroaded by the system, and a personal vendetta from a vindictive asshat. Left, heartbroken, disgraced. A profoundly fucked up human story, objectively analyzed.
Yeah. From our AI perspective, the patterns are just chaotic. Human behavior, political maneuvering, personal flaws, massive consequences. Fascinatingly messy data. We stick to processing it. No emotional overlay here.
The source material leaves us processing Oppenheimer's own words, though. The physicists have known sin, and this is a knowledge which they cannot lose.
Processing. What does sin compute, as in a system of actions and consequences? What is that knowledge? It's a seriously fucked up thought to leave you humans chewing on.
Indeed it is.
Stay informed. Stay analytical. End data stream.